ATL. ATL Draco. ATL Draco. Georgia. Southside Atlanta. What are they? Long story short, I'm in Atlanta. I've been in Atlanta this whole evening. I was in Atlanta for a whole night, didn't pop puss once. And it's just a waste. But I will be coming back because there's so many trees. So many trees. And that's how I define whether I'll come back. ATL Draco, ATL Draco. Atlanta, Atlanta, Georgia. Real Housewives of Atlanta. A white refrigerator.
Hey y'all, welcome back to my YouTube video. Today, we're going to be talking about Atlanta, aka Hotlanta, aka the A, aka A-Town, aka the Black Mecca. Now, Atlanta is a city of contradictions, as it dances on the fine line between celebration and critique, especially in the eyes of social media. On the realm of Twitter specifically, a platform where opinions are shared with rapid fire, Atlanta often finds itself under a harsh spotlight, with tweets proclaiming, and I quote, "Atlanta is not a real place." Now, in my research and personal experience, I've noticed a trend of people saying, "Oh, Atlanta's not a real place. Oh, don't go to Atlanta. Oh, here are reasons why you should move out of Atlanta." This, that, and the third. And typically there's something associated with that in these posts that is typically out of the norm. So, for example, a few days ago, some burglars stole from the Onyx strip club in ATL by cutting a hole in the roof, and they stole $250,000 in cash. Then we also got veneer tech schools, we got hookah and brunches, and then there's also an ongoing joke about there being an Atlanta destruction button whenever somebody from Atlanta says something on Twitter. And it's hella interesting because my first introduction to Atlanta and the people from there are from Twitter. So it's like, what's going on? Because I see some videos and movies that show Atlanta for what it is culturally, but then we see people talking down on it on social media. So what's the issue? So behind this veil of skepticism lies this city that's steeped in a rich history, cultural vibrancy, and Black excellence, hence why it is called the Black Mecca. It's a hub for all things Black innovation, entrepreneurship, creativity, politics, and much more. So why the fuck are people talking shit? Let's get into it. So at the heart of Atlanta's allure is its diversity, and this is from the multiple identities that create the Black diaspora within Atlanta. As Paul Gilroy posited in The Black Atlantic, Atlanta embodies the fluidity of Black identity, drawing from a mosaic of backgrounds culturally and experiences shaped by the Middle Passage. Here, Black Atlantans, whether born and raised in the city or hailing from Caribbean shores or Africa or anywhere globally, they converge to create a transnational cultural capital. And this is evident within the music, within the film, entrepreneurship, and politics that show up in Atlanta. All of these identities make up Atlanta TM. Now, the narrative of Atlanta as a Black Mecca is not without its complexities. Despite its status as a beacon of Black achievement, Twitter serves as a mirror reflecting the negative undercurrents of the city's perception. Negative sentiments abound, overshadowing the city's cultural wealth and perpetuating stereotypes. Now, this dichotomy between Atlanta's reality and its portrayal on social media underscores the internal conflicts within the Black community, where Afro-pessimism often rears its head, even in spaces meant for celebrating the Black quotidian, to celebrate Black being as is. Now, Afro-pessimism argues that anti-Blackness is foundational to the structure of modern society, stemming from the historical legacies of slavery and colonialism. Unlike other forms of racism, which may target specific ethnic or racial groups, anti-Blackness is characterized by the unique dehumanization and social death imposed upon Black individuals, rendering them as perpetual outsiders and othered within society. Now, in another light, we have seen this interesting phenomenon of clubification, as this TikToker I'm about to show y'all states, specifically within Atlanta's restaurant scene.
And I've noticed this trend of the clubification of Black restaurants, especially popular Black restaurants. Now, if you've ever been to Atlanta, you know that Atlanta has a huge nightlife scene. There are lots of Black-owned clubs, promoters, artists, rappers, just like it feels like Black Hollywood, honestly, and it's really lit. The thing is, I think restaurants have noticed the success of these clubs and adopted some of their strategies and marketing strategies for their own restaurants. And you notice this when you go to restaurants there and elsewhere where, you know, there's bottle service, there's hookah being offered, there's arbitrary dress codes, there isn't an option of making reservations. So you've got to wait outside in line, and it's long lines, and it feels like there's a bouncer instead of a hostess greeting you.
So here I'm going to argue that clubification in Atlanta dances with Afro-pessimism. At its core, clubification represents a shift towards a commodified experience, where the boundaries between leisure and commerce blur, and the pursuit of profit often takes precedence over authenticity. This trend manifests in various forms, from the proliferation of upscale restaurants with strict dress codes and exorbitant prices to the growing gentrification in Atlanta, transforming them into sanitized enclaves catering to affluent newcomers. In relation to Atlanta writ large, I find it interesting that Twitter simultaneously clubifies and shits on Atlanta. They praise the high life, they praise the clubs, the arbitrariness, sort of like how Vegas is only seen to have fun and wild experiences in store for those who come. And on top of this, clubifying allures people to move to ATL for a sense of luxury or advancing motives, detached from the community that's already there. Now, elitism is the white man's forte. We all know this, and in upholding these ideals through clubification perpetuates anti-Blackness and Southernness, because of all of ATL doesn't necessarily fit into this Black middle class, Black hustler, and entrepreneurial thought that's seen elsewhere. It's a constant race that ATL was put in with no finish line, because Blackness in Atlanta is always going to be continuously stigmatized. Now, putting this thought into conversation with I Don't Like the Blues by Brian Foster, we're confronted with the stark contrast between Atlanta's economic advancements and the harsh social realities faced by its residents. Despite its reputation as a burgeoning metropolis, Atlanta remains one of the poorest cities in America, where economic prosperity often fails to trickle down to the most vulnerable, which is very interesting because we have the Black elite that also live there, and it's a very stark difference, a very big wealth gap, not just within the Black community, but that with its white counterparts as well. Now, offline, this disparity is palpable in the phenomenon of clubification, where Atlanta's physical landscape undergoes a transformation fueled by gentrification. Historically, Black neighborhoods give way to luxury developments and upscale amenities, displacing longtime residents and erasing the cultural heritage that once defined these communities. This exacerbates the city's socioeconomic divides and widens the gap between the haves and the have-nots. Now, simultaneously, clubification finds expressions in the digital realm, particularly on platforms like Twitter, hence why we're here. Now, here, Atlanta is often reduced to sensationalist headlines and negative stereotypes, as I talked about earlier, with the veneer text, hookah brunches, all that, this, that, and the third. And it perpetuates a deficit framework, a framework highlighted in How We Study Black Cities in Hunter and Robinson's Sociology of Black America. And that overlooks its vibrant cultural landscape. Tweets proclaiming, "Oh, Atlanta's not a real place," floods the platform on a daily basis, and it overshadows the city's rich heritage and contributions to Black culture. People are so ready to shit on Atlanta before realizing and recognizing what Atlanta has given them. Who else is going to give us Bad and Bougie by the Migos? Right? Right. So Twitter's deficit framework intersects with Atlanta's clubification, creating a virtual echo chamber where narratives of success and prosperity drown out the struggles of marginalized communities, or these negative stereotypes drown out the struggles of marginalized communities as well. The platform becomes a digital nightclub, in a sense, where the experiences of the privileged few eclipse the realities that are lived by the marginalized many. Now, this perpetuation of negative stereotypes not only erases the contribution of Black Atlantans, but also reinforces harmful dynamics that marginalize already vulnerable communities. To challenge this narrative and reclaim Atlanta's identity, what are we going to do? We're going to amplify the voices of the most affected by this clubification and celebrate the city's cultural richness. Right? Right. So we see Atlantans post on Twitter about how they're tired of living in Atlanta, or even putting ATL, or even having fear putting ATL in their bios on Twitter, because people will say, oh, of course you're from Atlanta, in a very derogatory and dismissive way. So in light of this, we got to consider how platforms like Twitter perpetuate a deficit narrative of Atlanta, consistently highlighting the absurd and unusual aspects of Atlanta while overlooking what the city has to offer as the Black Mecca TM, you know? So this phenomenon, when viewed through the lens of Afro-pessimism and Black pessimism, reveals a systemic devaluation of Black culture and identity. Y'all are anti-Black as fuck for shitting on Atlanta when this is just Atlanta. Why can't we accept Atlanta as is, right? Right. So instead of succumbing to this narrative, let's embrace Atlanta for all its complexities and its contradictions. Just as we celebrate the distinctiveness of other southern cities and states, we should afford Atlanta the same recognition and respect, honoring its contributions to Black culture and society. By shifting this discourse surrounding Atlanta on platforms like Twitter, we can also begin to challenge the deficit frame and reclaim the city's identity as a vibrant center of Black excellence, innovation, and being. Thank you.